Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host, Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry and Clerk. This is episode 4, regularly scheduled programming. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. I hope you all enjoyed the special bonus episode as much as I enjoyed making it. My sister cracks me up. I get that we have a different sense of humor than a lot of people. But it was a lot of fun for me, and I was really glad that she made the trip. Before I go into anything else, I realized that my instructions may not have been so clear on the craft-along that's happening this month. I blame Amanda for being so distracting with her goofy self. The craft-along is to benefit Craft Hope in their Project 19, which is making handmade softies for children affected by Hurricane Sandy. The project goes through January 10th, but I'm going to close our knit/crochet along on January 7th at noon. That's the day that I'll be recording. The prize for our crochet along is $7 pattern, up to $7 for a pattern on Ravelry, as long as it's giftable by Molly through Ravelry. I will purchase it for the winner. And each object, each toy that you make will give you one entry into the drawing. Here is my first little guy. This is, there we go. This is going to be a Grumpsaurus by Kat Lewinsky. I'm using scraps of my green acrylic. This is what I have left of the green, and I'm going to use purple for the limbs. I just started on the tail. I just cast on for the tail, so nothing really to show there. But I'm using size US 5 3.75 millimeters for this little guy. And I think he is adorable, and I kind of want to keep him for myself, but I won't because I have enough stuff and some people don't have anything, and that's really important this time of year to recall. So I'm hoping to make not just that little one, but at least 2 or 3 more toys. Gwen, Sit and Knitty from Ravelry posted a really cute owl crochet pattern that has like a little fabric stomach, and it looks adorable, so I'm probably going to make one of those. I have a huge bag full of novelty yarns that I'm going to raid in order to make stuffed animals, so look forward to seeing that coming up, and I hope to see some of you posting projects in the thread. By the way, welcome everyone. I should probably have said that first. Welcome everyone who is new. Several people who I invited joined the group on Ravelry, and several people who I didn't know have joined the group too, so that's really exciting. I hope you'll take a moment to introduce yourself in the welcome thread so we can all get to know each other. Okay, on to actual knitted stuffy stuffs. So you might recall the Lenny sock from the last episode, which is the sock that I made for my sister that her dog had chewed through. I fixed it. Look at that. What I ended up doing was I treated it as if the yarn had been snipped, and then I unwound the yarn out of it because it was a top-down sock, so I couldn't just unravel back what I had worked on for the cuff. But Lenny had chewed a hole, well, not a hole, he had chewed parts off, like a little U shape out. So I just took it back to the cuff, and luckily it was only the cuff, so I didn't have to worry about doing any pattern before I did the cuff again. So I put the stitches back on my needles and just knit the cuff, and it took, half hour, 45 minutes from the time I got the stitches actually back on the needle to finish the cuff and get it bound off and woven in and everything. So these will be not traveling through the mail to my sister. I'll just take them when I see her in January because I sent her home with some of my old slipper socks, so she should be fine without this one pair of socks. Did I mention that I changed location today? I'm sure you noticed that this is not the same area. I'm sitting on my couch, so I'll probably be shifting a lot and going lower and higher because my couch is facing that way. So I'm sideways kneeling on the couch, but I thought this would give better light because today it's overcast, but it's not bad. Hopefully you'll be able to see the yarns that I used a little bit better. Also this week, I've actually, made and finished the cowl for Rose that I said I was going to make her for Christmas. So there's the cowl. Here's the hat that I made last month. And I actually have leftover yarn of this, so I might make another cowl out of it, or I might make a toy out of it. I haven't decided yet. I think I have just under the amount that I used in this cowl, so we'll see how that goes. This yarn I found in my basement when I was cleaning the storage room. It was with a whole bunch of novelty yarns, but I did a burn test and I think it's mostly acrylic, not positive. It doesn't smell woolly at all, and it came from my sister. She gave me a whole bunch of yarns that she got from a market, like a huge garbage bag full of all sorts of novelty type yarns. And that is, it's a knit 2 purl 1 rib with a Triforce symbol worked onto it. And it is made on a size 8 5.5 millimeter needle. I finished one more thing. Bed number 4 is completed for my Nerd Wars dissertation. I used Fun Fur around the edge, and then Red Heart Super Saver in Royal and Navy, and then miscellaneous red balls of yarn. And US size J 6mm hook to create this. And now I only have one more cat bed to finish, and my dissertation will be done for this month. And that's all I have for finished objects. I told you that my finished objects list would be less impressive once the month started because I cast on new things. But before we get into that, I'm going to show you squares that I made for Rachel's Afghan. This was the December 6-inch square. It's called Granny's Red Square by Melanie Stiles, US H 5mm hook. This was one of the October 12-inch squares. It's called Winter's Lace by Teresa J. Koloff, US size H 5mm. August 12th square. That side. Shapeshifting in 12 by Aurora Suminen, US H 5mm square. And then the August 6-inch square I messed up on. So these are Moon Granny squares, but they're actually supposed to look like this. I made this for a swap. So it's a Super Saver, Amethyst, and Patty Green. But that's what the squares are supposed to look like. That's what the pattern is. I misread it when I made those two. And then this is the September 12-inch square, Embracing Variety by Aurora Suminen, US H size 5mm. Oh yes, the moon granny squares are not worked on an H, surprise, surprise. They're worked on a G, which is 4 millimeters. And those squares, except for the purple and green, which I've already told you, are worked in Super Saver, bright yellow, and Vanna's Choice scarlet and black. Here's the Vanna's Choice label by Lion Brand Yarns. My sock yarn blanket did not get a lot of love this week. I did a square that was just scraps, like leftover tails and stuff, when I wove in the ends, which turned out really, really cool. And also Knit Picks Stroll Fingering in black. And Yarn Bee Walk Away in the colorway Well Heeled. Can you see it's got purple and pink in it? I don't know if you can even tell the colors. Brown Sheep Wildfoot Luxury Sock Yarn in Master Gray. And Yarn Bee Walk Away in Ballet. Maybe that's over here. Now onto my works in progress. The first one I'm going to show you has a story behind it, so I'll tell you the story first. As many people know in the podcasting community, watchers and recorders, last week Carrie Steinmetz passed away. She was Knit Pearl Girl. I had just started reading her blog, and I watched a podcast the day before she passed, so I didn't know her very well, but over the past week I've read a lot more of her blog and watched another episode, and it's tragic. She was very young, and even though I didn't know her personally and I haven't been watching her for a really long time, when anybody dies in your community, it's really upsetting. While those who don't know any better would argue maybe that a group of podcasters isn't necessarily a community, to the knitting group it really is. You don't necessarily know these people in person, but you care about what they're working on, what their family's going through, and as I've read more of her blog, I really understand what the tragedy is, not just as a person in the knitting community, but kind of as a knitting rock star, as some people have said that podcasters with large followings are kind of considered. So, in her memory, Diane of the Knittables podcast started a knit-along for her crosswords at the coffee shop, and I joined. I received the pattern as a random act of patterning, which is something that Carrie had started up on Tuesdays to donate patterns, well, to gift patterns on Ravelry to people. I'm not very far, but you can see already that the lace is really, really lovely. It's a shawlette. I'm making the shawlette size, and I'm using Zwina yarns in the colorway teal. I got this yarn from a woman who is destashing, and I didn't know what I was going to use it for, but then I got the pattern for this and I said, oh, this will be perfect. I'm probably not going to make a shawlette. I'm probably going to do the lace and then make it into a scarf, because this yarn I have 220 yards of this, and the shawlette calls for 225 of an Aran weight, and this is worsted. So it will depend once I get through the lace repeats if I want to do a shawlette or a scarf based on how much yarn I have left over. Sorry for the children in the background. They are not taking their nap today. It is officially nap time, but they're not sleeping. I'm working it on I don't actually know what size needle this is, and I can't find my needle gauge or my interchangeable case, so I can't just look inside it and see what needles I have out. So next week I'll let you know what needles I'm working on. But I'm really happy to be a part of this knit along in memory of someone who has touched the knitting community so much. She's a really, really great designer. I love a lot of her patterns, and she just seemed like a really great person, like the type of person you would meet and instantly want to be best friends with. The knitting community has a huge loss in Carrie. I'm also making Mandy's socks, of course. I made not a ton of progress, not as much as I wanted, but you know, she visited and that took away a whole day worth of knitting. And I started that shawl, which is not a loss in time at all. It's great. But I'm officially through the cuff, so it will go much faster now because this last round that I did, the cuff finishing, I decreased 50 stitches per sock. That's 100 stitches less that I have to do per go on these needles. And in 5 inches, I will be decreasing another 20 stitches, I think. So that will make it go even faster. But I'm really happy with the progress that I'm making. I'm using Serenity sock weight in the colorway charcoal and US size 1 2.25 needles to make her socks. I started another pair of socks. These are for my mom. Yarn Bee Walkaway in the colorway Ballet. They're going to have a pocket in them which will fulfill the Nerd Wars challenge with a little help from my friends. The idea is to find out more about other Nerd Warriors and to do that through music, so to find someone's favorite song and base something off of the title or the lyrics or just an instrumental piece. And I'm using brass and pocket, so it's going to have, the socks are going to have pockets, and I'm going to put a few coins in them as my tie-in. And that song was submitted to me by Kibbles, which I'm really excited about because she's our team thesis member person that we ear burn when we submit our dissertation check-in. So she's not part of Team 1-Up, but she kind of is, which is really nice. That brings me to the Nerd Wars challenges, which is really, really exciting. I'm going to be using the shawl, the crosswords shawl, and Rachel's Afghan as submissions for the scientific challenge, which is to finish works in progress. I'm using the pocket socks. I'm using the stuffed animals for the Giving Geeks challenge, which is to help people who have been affected by disaster, so easy tie in there. Oh, I have 2 more works in progress. I have Cecilia's nightgown. It's all cut and part of it is pinned, so I started working on it. It's sewn a little bit, and by next week it should be done. I started on the very last pet bed that I'm doing for my Nerd Wars dissertation. It's going to be all pink. I was mistaken. I have 1 more work in progress. I just cast this on right before the podcast, before I recorded. It's only 2 rows in. I'm going to be making another Knit 2 Purl 1 cowl. Hillary of the Hippie Penguin is collecting and distributing hats, scarves, cowls, mittens, etc. to homeless people in her area. Every Thursday, I believe it is, she goes out and gives them not only cold weather gear, but also like flavored drink packets, the one-off things. that you just put in bottles of water, and I don't remember what else she gives them, but I'm going to try to make at least 3 cowls in the next week to send to her a week from tomorrow so that she can distribute them, because I have donated, I think, 20 scarves at this point to my local collection area, and their bin is pretty full. So maybe once they empty it and give out the scarves that I've made, I will make some more for them too. But I think it's really important to support the entire knitting community, and Hillary sent out the call for cowls because she made a cowl, or someone gave her, at Knit in the Mitten, someone gave her a cowl, and everybody wanted one, so she has made one. But I have a huge collection of acrylic yarn, so easy care stuff. It's not as nice as, you know, a wool blend, but I have a lot, and I'm willing to make cowls, so I'm going to get working on that and hopefully make at least 3. Also, another Nerd War tie-in that I forgot is the cowl. I made that for the challenge I Will Survive. I think that's nerd culture. And the idea is to make something for your survival. And the cowl is for my survival because it's for my dad's girlfriend, who I am not a huge fan of. My dad specifically asked for a hat and a scarf, but you know, a cowl is basically a scarf for her. So if I want holidays to go nicely when I visit, I needed to make that for her. So I did. I have an idea for the last challenge, which is called, I've got to get me one of those, and I can't remember what category that is, but I'm going to make socks for my niece out of this yarn instead of making socks for Steve this month. When they visited, Cecilia, my niece, said, "Will you make me some yarn socks?" Just like that. And I said, "Sure, I'll make you some yarn socks." And then I was working on Amanda's socks later, and she was like, "Are those socks for me? Are you going to make me yarn socks?" So I told her I would make her some yarn socks. So now I'm going to make socks for my 2 kids and Amanda's 3 kids, hopefully by the time I visit in January. So that's a lot of socks to make, but luckily they're kids' socks. So Mara is 2, Gabriel and Cecilia are both 4, and Kenny and Robert are both 7. So hopefully their feet, since their feet are small, the socks will go really, really fast. But I'm going to make socks to be reminiscent of Ruby slippers. They're going to have a sock top. Let me just get the sketch. One moment. Okay, here's the sketch. There you go. So the top part right here, that is going to be, it's just going to look like a sock, and then I'm going to do some cabling along here to make it the separation between socks and shoes, and then put a bow on the front like the Ruby slippers, and then tie Ruby slippers back to my nerdery. But I think she'll really, really like it. I didn't find a pattern that I liked on Ravelry, so I'll be making this one up. But I'm really excited to try making kids socks, because they should go pretty fast, and I do like working with this yarn. And then one more idea for upcoming things. I'd like to do in January a selfish crafting challenge. Knit along, crochet along, craft along. A craft along in January for something for you. It can be a work in progress that you put aside to finish things for other people, or it can be something new. I know that I personally set aside things for myself frequently to make things for other people, just because it's much more satisfying to give them something and see their reaction than to just have something for myself. But I am part of the Personal Sock Yarn Club for the Traveling Sock Knitter podcast, and I've made the 4 pairs of socks for my mom since the club started, and I plan on sometime making 1 more pair for my friend Becca, but 7 pairs I plan to make for myself, and I will be using this lovely green yarn. It is from Plymouth Yarn Company. It's called Happy Feet. And there is no actual color. It's color number 1. And I have 2 hanks of it. Well, they were hanks when I got them, I think. Maybe not, I can't remember. But I'll be winding these into balls and then making myself a pair of socks. So if you have some works in progress or new projects that you want to make for yourself in January, please pick up your spindle or hook or needle or sit down to your wheel or loom and craft with me. I hope to see you guys in that January craft along. While I was editing, something really exciting happened. The mail came! Also, the babies are now up, so you might hear baby type stuff going on in the background, like Mara scribbling on a piece of paper, and we may be photobombed. But I now have a new thing segment for the day, so exciting! Can't wait to show you. First, I got a letter from Amanda, which I'm not going to show you, but I'm really excited about that. And second, I got my very first order from an Etsy shop. Are you excited to see it? Because I'm really, really, really excited to see it. It is my Christmas present from my boyfriend. Hey, Boo Boo. Hi. You don't know? She doesn't know. Okay, I'm really, really excited. I can barely contain my excitement. Sorry for all the crinkling, but literally just got the mail right before I hit record again. So this is from Nooch Fiber. There's Nooch. Oh, the cat. From, let's see, can you see that? Noochfiber.etsy. This is, the colorway is Totally Goth, and it's Midtown Sock, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. Colorway Princess, which is also Morningside sock instead. Oops, different. 100% superwash merino. It's 400 yards, 100 grams. That is the first 2. She had a sale for Cyber Monday, so I got all of the yarns that I could with the budget that my boyfriend gave me, and so excited. Stomping Grapes, which is the Midtown Sock, 75 superwash merino, 25 nylon, 463 yards. This is called Cloud 9, and it is the Morningside sock, which is 100% superwash merino, and I'm actually going to take this band off so you can see all the colors, which will probably have to be in photo form. But even on camera, it's gorgeous. And here is the little card that came with it. This is totally worth a cutscene, right? Now back to the rest of the show, and thank you, Nooch Fibers for this gorgeous, gorgeous fiber. moving along to books. I finished The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman, and it was really good. I don't usually like books written by men. I don't know why. I find that stylistically, in general, I know it's not the same for all, but in general, men are a little more clinical in their writing, and women are a little more lyrical, and I enjoy that a little more. But I found his writing to be I found the story very engaging and entertaining, and I didn't want to put it down at night when I needed to sleep, so I hit myself in the stomach a few times with the book falling out of my hands. It was a really, really enjoyable read, and an interesting look at the afterlife and how people could possibly interact with it. Highly recommend it. I am loving The Mists of Avalon, Book 1, Mistress of Magic. I love King Arthur in general, the whole legend, but this is a very female-centric version of the story, and it is fantastic. It's talked about Igraine and Morgan and Vivian, who is Morgan's aunt, and it is amazing. Amazing. I am almost done listening to it. It's 12 discs, and I'm on disc 8, and I anticipate finishing today or tomorrow because all I want to do is listen to it in the background of whatever I'm doing. I am hoping to pick up the second book tomorrow at the library. We shall see. Hopefully it's there. It was there last week, and I thought about grabbing it, but then I was like, no, I'm not going to listen to the whole thing plus the other audiobook in 1 week. And then I did. Well, and then I will have, rather. So hopefully the second book will be there. And I also started last night. Mara woke up at a little after 2 with a nightmare, and she came in my room and she crawled in my bed and she started falling back asleep, and I started falling asleep. And then Gabriel started talking in his sleep. He said, "Hey mama," and then he counted to 5, and I was like, what is going on? But then he fell back asleep. So Mara was asleep. I carried her back to her room, and Steve started snoring. Poked him a little bit to hope that he would stop snoring, but by that time I was a lost cause. He came downstairs and knitted a little bit and started reading Knitting Rules by Stephanie Pearl McPhee. I've only read a couple of her blog posts, but I enjoyed what I read. And she's the Yarn Harlot, for those of you who didn't right away recognize the name. And this book is amazing. Stephanie, you and I need to be best friends. I'm only through chapter 1, but I feel like we're best friends, and you're basically reading my mind. And I kind of want to shove this book, or at least chapter 1, in the face of all the people who are like, really? You knit? Why do you knit? Amanda, chapter 1, read it, and you might understand why I'm so into knitting. You probably won't, but you might. And anyone who knits and has not read this, go get it. Go see if your library has it. Go order it online. Go to your local bookstore, whatever. Read it. It's amazing. It is amazing. And I'm pretty sure I have Becca of Knit Bites to thank for recommending that. Okay, on to 3 Favorite Things, podcast part 2. My first is Knit Pearl Girl, which was written and recorded by Carrie. I'm really sad that I didn't start watching her podcast and reading her blog sooner, because I didn't get a chance to interact with her. either on Ravelry or, possibly meet up at a festival or something. But she's just such a nice person and very, very funny. I like a lot of her colloquialisms. She's very entertaining to watch and to read. I highly recommend reading through her blog, not just watching the podcasts. The second one is Hippie Penguin, which is hosted by Hillary. Hillary is a sweetie, and I love her projects. And she is a indie dyer too. Hippie Penguin Fibers on Etsy, I believe. I'll link it in the show notes. And her stuff looks really, really great. I hope to purchase things from her in the future once I save up my nickels and pennies so I can afford something. But she's a huge sweetie. She's the woman who collects things for the homeless and then distributes them with a group of people on Thursdays. The third podcast is an audio podcast. It's called Cast On. It's hosted by Brenda Dane. She's a designer. You may or may not have heard of her. I hadn't before I Googled podcasts and found hers. She has done 120 or 130 something episodes, and all of them are worth listening to from the beginning even. I highly recommend listening to her podcast. She's still podcasting after 5 or 6 years, a little less frequently than in the beginning. She started out doing weekly or bi-weekly, and now it's more monthly. But she's very entertaining. She does interviews, and she travels around and takes recordings of nature and where she's going, and she's a great storyteller. So if you get a chance, I recommend checking out Knit Pearl Girl, Hippie Penguin, and Cast On. Give all three a try. See if you like them. I hope you've made something awesome with your sticks and string. Thank you for hanging out with me for the past half hour-ish, and I hope to see you next week.